Welcome to the Re-FIRE-ment gathering of Northwest Anesthesia, also known as Anesthesia Northwest, doing business as American Anesthesiology of Minnesota. Over 4 decades of making the impossible seem routine, and in the words of one of our beloved past members, we pissed excellence. Now you may be wondering why the lighthouse. Well, as many of you may know, the ASA website logo was a lighthouse with the words vigilance, which represented much of what our charge was. Actually, when I tried to find evidence of Northwest Anesthesia on the World Wide Web, what I actually found was our domain name was for sale by someone other than our own purveyor of domain names. Now, Mendax never lied to me, so I'm assuming they are telling the truth in their press release discussing the acquisition of Northwest Anesthesia that says it was established in 1974. Felon Dwork confirmed this timing on Sunday. When I was looking for a crumbling lighthouse to serve as the symbol, I came across the Kipsar Lighthouse in Estonia, which started 100 meters from the sea, but the wind, wave, and storms eventually moved it out to sea, and it is listing but still standing. That seemed the perfect metaphor for our own situation. Now, we endured the PHP contract dispute, the CRNA employment, which was kind of forced on us, which resulted in the Ketam action, clearly our darkest days, effing OPA, the heart hospital move, building mother baby in a different zip code, West Health, effing Owatonna, Mednax, but finally the RFP was the last straw. Now, this is the article that appeared on the business section of the paper after the RFP was announced. It may as well have been followed by an article about the new restroom care products used in the building, since, after all, we do piss excellence. All right, now this is the oldest group photo I have. These were taken about yearly, usually during the dead of winter when most people were not on vacation. My tan indicates I recently returned from some exotic dive destination, and Bryce obviously was holed up in the basement working on the schedule. I didn't actually know we were hiring teenagers back then. This photo shows the addition of Dick Blomberg, Dick Engwall, Jack Wintermute, John Goodman. The addition of Cohen, Manchu, and Furte have obviously taken a toll on the hair of Dr. D and the beards of Menzel, Skoog, Beverlin, and Nissen. We have some natural Grecian formula in the group. Jim Gaze, dark from head to toe. Nothing bothered him. Remembering some of our lost members. I never worked with Bob Phelps, but I did meet him at some of these gatherings. Bob was famous for being very spirited, and he actually died while climbing the REI rock wall in full sight of traffic on 494. Bob was also famous for having his name turned into a verb. Phelpsing means making sure the F1 knows you're next to go and down to one room, with suggestions included for handoffs. Louis Heron was one of the original Northwest Anesthesia physicians, a gentle soul, a proud member of the FMG Mafia, and before Mitch Burke, Louis was the guy to go to for difficult or fiber optic intubations. He was the guy Transfelt called for his transoral C1 fusions. Jean Boning, a lovely woman who worked to protect the outdoors, was very involved in supporting the Y and died too young of breast cancer. Bill Stauffer, known for his bird watching, bird calling, his 9 lives as a customer of the medical industrial complex, and his 5-course lunch breaks in the doctor's lounge. Dick Engwall could serve as a contrast to our current situation, a locally famous anesthesiologist having been president of the Minnesota Society. When MMC closed and their physicians were left wandering the streets, he was taken on at Northwest Anesthesia as an immediate full partner with no interview, no buy-in, and no delay. John Peterson was a master woodworker and golfer, but he, for me, always served as a reminder to why we're more valuable to the hospital than we were given credit for. When I needed sinus surgery while still a real doctor, my surgeon, who could operate anywhere in town, told me I should come to Abbott because they have the best anesthesia. John was my anesthesiologist that day and later would always introduce me to people at gatherings as one of his survivors. Finally, my dear friend and fellow Slovene, Jim Music. Jim, in addition to being an MD, was also a PhD organic chemist. Now, 66% of all pre-med students drop their major once faced with organic, and all orthopedic surgeons had someone else take their organic finals. So Jim was usually the smartest guy in the room, but as I said at his memorial, he didn't introduce himself to patients as Dr. Musich, rather Jim. He was famous for many things, being an untiring F1, co-author of the Slovenian Summer Sifter, which kept everyone happy with their summer vacation plans except for maybe mules, for almost 2 decades. He never laid up on a par 5, and he loved Guinness, but most famously, the Musich Wheel of Eternal Recurrence. Remembering our esteemed retirees. Raj Dwarkanath, Jeffrey, Javier Pereira, who's now settled in Hilton Head, South Carolina, Bryce Beverlin. Now this would have been a really nice retirees picture, except that Scoogie, for unclear reasons, refuses to give up the ghost. Jim's lost his mustache, but not his proudest moniker. Bob Trenier and Jeff again. Mike and Nina have kept very busy with their myriad interests outside the hospital, and now Mike can pretty much take a Menzel anytime he wants. Ophelio never misses an occasion to get together, and we are happy he made it Sunday night. Mark Nissen and Bob McElveen, the Nissen family dynasty at Northwest Anesthesia. I've known Mark for a very long time. We were med school classmates, and he's one of the reasons I joined Northwest Anesthesia, in addition to them being quite desperate for help when I finished my residency. Here's a picture of Mark in 1975 or 76 in our dorm in Chicago. Here he is with a very mature classmate of ours. And to be fair, this is a picture my mother kept for inexplicable reasons. I apparently had not yet grown comfortable with my ears. Now the mood and the look on this slide is telling. Jeff and Dwark are retired and look great. Lilahai and Mitch are thinking very strongly about retiring and look pretty good. Sunblad, post-call disheveled, unshaven, pounding the brewskis, and a long way to retirement. Now, I didn't get to everybody because of the shutdown, but a number of people wanted to offer a kind word knowing we were leaving. Pharmacy staff was always there for us. Jill and the folks at the front desk. Some of the pre-op folks. Danny wanted to make sure he got into the act. The acute pain service nurses, who look so sad we're leaving. The Cox Sisters, which was the name I recommended for the Southwest staff all-girl band, quickly nixed. Finally, I didn't get the chance to get more of our physician colleagues on camera, but fittingly, it seems, I got one of our favorites.
Say, David, I can't relax. I can't relax. I need total relaxation right now.
Excuse me, doctor. Can you put a hat on, please?
Oh.
I thought it was cute that instead of being sad and forlorn, which was my idea when we shot this little thing, he just put on his angry eyes and went for it. And that was a one-take deal, and it seemed to do the trick. Some folks who have moved on or who are moving on. Louis, Jane, and Zain Hassan. Louis knows he was invited, so I'd have a chance to see Angie. I stole their pictures from the Hospital Rogues Gallery and gave them away on Sunday. Gary Trummel, Rebecca Keene, Christina Rios, Nicoletta Manchu. What are the odds of a group having 2 Transylvanian vampires? Tom Berscheid's identity was wiped from the web, and I couldn't find a picture. Dan Johnston is holed up in Minnetonka and Vail. Amanda Murray's now happy at Methodist, where they're treating her well, she says. And Andrew Engel is down at Hennepin, where he is says it's a weird place. We found another Dr. Andrew Engel, and he shares a haunting resemblance to someone else who was in the room Sunday night. They apparently share a fashion sense as well. Who wouldn't get to know Rano Faltis? This is a shot of him from his pain clip bio, and I told Dahlia that she better keep an eye on that muffin. Now, we know this isn't our Mitch Burke, but it feels like Somber Reptile would be a very good nickname for him. Mitch is working at a little hospital west of Pittsburgh, or a little west of Pittsburgh, killing time during COVID. Steve Dentz, who acted as the medical director of American Anesthesiology of Minnesota, is now practicing in Phoenix, and he's very happy that they call him doctor. Candace Sabers, who served as our medical director for a number of years, is apparently channeling her inner Anthony Bourdain through blog postings. Jerry Ogeen closed his office in Minneapolis, is now practicing in Portland. He sends his best to everyone, but apparently hasn't figured out that Bitmojis are actually supposed to resemble the person in question. Steve Toohey answered the question of what that long layoff was in the fall. Apparently he had an unsuccessful hair transplant. He's moved to Park City, Utah, where he remains a Catholic but is no longer practicing anesthesia. Andrew Wilkie has moved to the U, and he's now been joined by another guy with great hair. The three Vamigos, I heard from Tori and Rayhan, and it sounds like they've settled in pretty well. Robin Kunze has now joined them, but fortunately she wasn't there when this slide was made. Turns out we have a few folks moving to Southern California. John Cohen will definitely fit in, and Camille Rice a little worried about that. Matt Sunblad is now relocating to the San Diego area. This is Matt and Lakshmi at his Iowa Basketball Hall of Fame induction. There's some people we should thank, not the least of which is my wife, for putting up with me the last 31 years of practice. But I want to thank Heather, John, and John, who were willing to put their Minikata memberships on the line by sponsoring an event where Wilkie and alcohol would be in close proximity. I know he appeared in the retiree comment, but we really have to thank Jeff Shaw. He was the gold standard for abuse, always with a straight face. He was not responsible for all the vacation rules. He served as the company president for over a decade, where when we had a lot of Oak Ridge Country Club board meetings, apparently creating a situation where he didn't have to pay dues. And he and his red stethoscope have aged as well as anyone. Looking good, Jeff. Besides having great hair, John Marachik took call for 497 straight nights and single-handedly brought the acute pain service into being. This raised the bar for our group and quite frankly gave me a new tool to help me enjoy my last decade of practice a little more by becoming a member of the Block Mafia. John Norp and Rick Skoog, who stepped up to handle more meetings than had occurred in the last 2.5 decades prior to 2017. And what can you say about Robin Kunze, the goddess of the grid? Her command of the grid, her absolute dedication to trying to get our staffing right deserves a round of applause, but I really think it was the colors. Kevin Dienema, I believe these are some passport photos from when Kevin worked at Halliburton, doing God knows what. Kevin swallowed his reticence to Mednax and became the king of the 22X over his last months here. He also promised that if anyone were to visit him in Nebraska, a trip to Carhenge was in order, assuming you could find it. Finally, I've been doing the schedule since 2006, though it seems a lot longer. Sometimes it was a little overwhelming. Sometimes I got a little testy. Eventually, I developed an answer I was comfortable with when any scheduling concerns came up. Because of my age, the infirmity, the possibility that I'd be hit by a bus, and the schedule would just disappear, there was concern that I needed help. Well, after a long search by the board, someone finally decided to take the red pill. Fiona was like a gentle, naive angel in the beginning, teaching me the ancient art of Bitmoji. She didn't quite believe the schedule was that hard to make since it was automated, but over time, she began to realize her power and enjoy the way she controlled the destiny of all those around her. Clearly, at some point, she achieved the proper attitude when it came to fielding the many complaints brought to the scheduling office, and for that, Fiona, I am most proud of you and thank you from the bottom of my heart. Back to the lighthouse. Interestingly enough, the same forces that caused the lighthouse to teeter have corrected some of the lean, and I believe that time will similarly be kind to the reputation and legacy of Northwest Anesthesia. I thank you all for coming on Sunday, and I thank you very much for everything you've meant to me in my career and with Northwest Anesthesia. Thank you very much.